What makes Heartland so powerful after 19 seasons is not just the wide-open skies, the breathtaking horses, or the family ranch. It is the heart behind every moment. Risk Everything is not a story about chasing danger for the sake of excitement, it is a story about why we risk, why we put ourselves in the path of hardship, and why love is always worth the gamble. The episode begins to reveal that risk is not just something external, like a dangerous horse or a financial decision. The deepest risks are often hidden within the heart, in the choices we make about who we are and who we want to be. For Amy, the risk is deeply personal. Her entire life has been about healing horses, healing people, even healing parts of herself that felt broken. But healing requires her to constantly give a piece of herself away. In this episode, the question rises louder than ever. What happens when you have given so much of yourself that you feel empty? Amy's love for her work is what makes her strong, but it is also what makes her vulnerable. Risk Everything paints her not as an untouchable hero, but as a woman standing on the thin edge of exhaustion and determination. Every time she reaches out to help, she risks her spirit being worn down, and yet she cannot stop. That conflict between her love and her limits drives the heart of her story. Lou's risk comes in a different form. For her, the battle is not just inside her heart but out in the open. She has responsibilities stacked on her shoulders. The ranch, her family, her role as a leader. Each choice she makes is a risk because it carries consequences that ripple outward. To risk everything for Lou does not mean reckless decisions, it means daring to stand firm when everyone is watching, daring to lead when she feels uncertain, daring to put her own dreams on the line for the sake of others. Lou embodies the struggle of anyone who has ever tried to balance love and responsibility. And this episode sharpens that struggle until it cuts deep. Jack represents another kind of risk, the risk of vulnerability. For decades, he has been the backbone of Heartland, the wise figure who offers guidance and stability. But even the strongest hearts carry fears, and Jack's are the kind that never fade. He has seen loss, felt the ache of regret, and lived through moments when risk took everything from him. In Risk Everything, Jack's presence is more than a voice of reason, it is a reminder that risk is not something you outgrow. No matter how old you are, no matter how wise you become, every decision still carries weight, and every choice still matters. Jack's quiet reflections are perhaps the most human of all, because they remind us that life is always fragile, always uncertain, and always worth living despite the risks. Tim's story brings a raw, restless energy. Where others hesitate, he charges forward. Where others weigh the cost, he throws himself in without looking back. But Risk Everything forces him to confront the truth that some risks cannot be outrun. His choices, bold and brash, do not just affect him, they affect his family. And for a man who has always struggled with his own flaws, this season tests whether he can accept responsibility when his risks bring more than just adventure. The truth is, Tim's greatest risk may not be the challenges outside of him but the battle inside him, the fight to prove he can change, that he can be more than the man his past mistakes have made him. And then there are the horses. They are not just animals in this story, they are mirrors of the characters themselves. A horse that fears the bridle is a reflection of a heart that fears connection. A horse that resists being tamed symbolizes the struggle against control. And every time Amy steps into the ring with a wounded or troubled horse, the scene is not just about training, it is about healing the invisible wounds that every character carries. Horses in Heartland have always been symbols, but in Risk Everything, they feel more alive than ever, embodying the idea that risk is not about conquering, it is about trusting. This episode also quietly asks us, the audience, to reflect on our own lives. It is easy to watch Amy, Lou, Jack, and Tim wrestle with their choices. But somewhere in their stories, we see our own reflections. We know what it feels like to risk love, to risk failure, to risk our own comfort for the chance at something better. And that is why Risk Everything resonates so deeply. It doesn't just tell a story about a ranch in Alberta. It tells a story about all of us. It reminds us that life itself is a risk, and that the only way to truly live is to step forward, even when the outcome is uncertain. By the time the first episode draws near its conclusion, the theme becomes clear. Risk is not the enemy. Fear is. To risk everything is to choose courage over fear, love over loss, and hope over despair. And while the choices the Heartland family makes will shape the rest of the season, the message is already written. Sometimes, the only way to protect what you love is to risk it all. At its core, Heartland has always been about one thing: love. Not the kind of love that is fleeting or shallow, but the kind of love that digs its roots deep into the soil, just like the ranch itself. Love for family, love for the land, love for the horses that carry their burdens silently yet faithfully. And most of all, the love that gives life meaning even when everything else feels uncertain. In Risk Everything, that truth stands taller than ever. Every decision, every sacrifice, every painful choice is tied to love. It is love that drives Amy to step into dangerous spaces. It is love that keeps Lou fighting to hold her family together. It is love that makes Jack carry the weight of memory, and love that pushes Tim to chase redemption. Love is the heartbeat of Heartland, and it is the very reason anyone would dare to risk everything. What makes this episode so unique is how it reminds us that love is not safe. To love something or someone is to make yourself vulnerable. It is to open yourself to joy, but also to loss. It is to carry both comfort and fear in the same breath. When Amy reaches out to heal a horse, she knows the pain of failure could crush her, but her love makes the risk worth it. When Lou chooses to step into leadership, she knows criticism will follow, but love gives her the strength to stand firm. Jack, with all his wisdom, knows better than anyone that love is both the greatest blessing and the greatest gamble. And Tim, for all his flaws, knows that risking love is the only way he will ever build something lasting. The ranch itself is a symbol of that love. Heartland is not just a place where stories happen, it is the living memory of every choice, every triumph, and every heartbreak. It carries the history of those who came before, and the promise of those who will come after. In Risk Everything, the ranch feels alive, almost like a character itself. The fences, the barns, the pastures, they are more than wood and grass. They are reminders of the risks already taken, the sacrifices already made, and the love that has kept it all standing for 19 seasons. Protecting Heartland is not about saving land, it is about saving a legacy. And sometimes, the only way to keep that legacy alive is to risk it all again. But there is another truth hidden in this episode. Risking everything is not just about the future. It is also about healing the past. Every character carries scars. Some are visible, others are buried deep. Amy carries the ache of loss. Lou carries the weight of responsibility. Jack carries the shadows of memory, and Tim carries the burden of regret. Their risks are not only about what comes next, they are about making peace with what has already happened. To risk everything is to say, I will not let my past define me. I will step forward anyway. That message is quiet but powerful, and it lingers long after the episode ends. This is what makes Heartland timeless. It does not depend on flashy spectacle or overblown drama. Instead, it speaks to the real struggles we all face. To risk everything is not just a theme for the characters, it is a mirror for the audience. We are reminded that every day, in our own ways, we take risks for the things we love. We risk heartbreak when we open our hearts. We risk failure when we chase a dream. We risk disappointment when we put faith in others. And yet, without those risks, life would be empty. Heartland shows us that the beauty of life lies not in avoiding risk, but in embracing it. In trusting that love will make it worth the pain. As the episode closes, the air feels heavy with possibility. The choices have been made, but their consequences are still ahead. The family stands together, not because they are free from fear, but because they have chosen to risk everything for each other. And as the camera sweeps across the ranch, the message becomes clear. Heartland is not just a story about horses and family, it is a story about the courage to love. Even when love demands everything, Season 19 is not here to play it safe. Risk Everything promises that the journey ahead will test every bond, challenge every heart, and remind us why this show has endured for nearly 2 decades. Because in the end, life is not about holding back. It is about giving, loving, and risking it all for what truly matters. That is the spirit of Heartland. And that is why this season is set to be one of its most unforgettable chapters yet. The heart of Heartland beats stronger than ever. Season 19 begins with an episode that dares to push every limit, every bond, and every choice. Risk Everything isn't just a title, it's a promise that this story will test courage, challenge loyalty, and remind us that sometimes the biggest risks are the ones that matter most. For almost 2 decades, Heartland has been more than just a show. It has been a journey of family, love, loss, and healing. Generations have grown up with the story of Amy Fleming, her family, and the horses that became symbols of strength and hope. And now, as Season 19 begins, the world of Heartland feels both familiar and brand new. This isn't just another season, it is a new chapter written on the foundation of everything that has come before. The first episode, Risk Everything, immediately sets the tone. The title alone speaks volumes. It tells us that this is not going to be a gentle ride. It hints at choices that can change lives, challenges that cannot be avoided, and sacrifices that may demand more than anyone is ready to give. It is about taking that one step forward when the ground feels uncertain, about holding on when it would be easier to let go. And as the episode unfolds, we begin to see that every character is standing at a crossroads. Amy, as always, is at the center. She has carried the weight of the ranch, the family, and her own personal battles. But now, the question grows louder. How much more can she give? How much more can she risk before the cost becomes too high? Amy's journey has always been about healing others, whether people or horses, but healing comes with a price. And in season 19, that price may be heavier than ever before. Yet, Heartland has never been just Amy's story. It is the story of a family tied together by love and tested by hardship. Lou continues to carry the role of leader, making decisions that affect not only the ranch but the future of everyone connected to it. She has always been torn between duty and family, between what is right for the ranch and what is right for her heart. In Risk Everything, those lines blur even further, forcing her to face choices she can't escape. Then there is Jack, the quiet strength of Heartland. His wisdom has guided the family through storms before, but wisdom doesn't always shield the heart. Jack knows better than anyone that risking everything means not just losing land or horses, but losing the people you love. His presence is steady, his voice calm, but beneath it lies the pain of someone who has risked and lost before. He knows what's at stake, and his quiet warnings carry the weight of experience. Tim, on the other hand, has never been one to back down from risk. His restless nature, his drive to push harder, faster, further, these qualities have often led to both triumph and disaster. In this new season, his choices may carry consequences that ripple through the entire family. For Tim, risk has always been a way of life. But now, the question is whether he can handle the fallout when those risks strike too close to home. As the episode builds, the theme becomes clear. To risk everything is to face the truth of who you are. It is to stand at the edge of fear and step forward anyway. The family, the ranch, the horses, they all symbolize something greater than themselves. They are the threads that hold Heartland together, and each character must decide what they are willing to give, what they are willing to lose, and what they are willing to fight for. Risk Everything is not just a story about danger or sacrifice. It is a story about love. Because in the end, we only risk what we truly care about. Heartland has always been about that truth, that love makes us strong, but it also makes us vulnerable. It gives us something to fight for, but it also gives us something to lose. And in this first episode, every moment, every choice, carries that weight. As the sun sets over the ranch and the first chapter of season 19 closes, one thing is certain. Heartland is no longer about holding on to the past. It is about stepping into the unknown future, and the only way forward is to risk everything. Every story in Heartland begins with a choice. Sometimes those choices are small, whether to take a chance on a new horse, whether to trust someone with a secret, whether to forgive or hold on to anger. Other times, those choices are the kind that shift everything, the kind that can never be undone. In season 19, episode 1, the choices aren't just about what is convenient or safe, they are about what matters most. The truth is, when the stakes are this high, there are no safe choices. Amy stands at the center of these questions more than anyone else. Her gift with horses has always been her strength, but it is also her greatest test. To risk everything, for her, often means putting herself in situations where she must choose between her own peace and the healing of others. When a horse in need arrives, Amy cannot look away. She has spent years carrying that burden, even when it broke her heart, even when it tested her spirit. And in this new season, the demands only grow heavier. It's no longer just about her gift, it's about whether she has the courage to keep using it, even if it costs her more than she expects. But Amy isn't alone. Lou feels the same pressure in a different way. Leadership has always rested uneasily on her shoulders. She is strong, but strength doesn't mean the absence of doubt. Every decision she makes touches the lives of her family and the future of the ranch. To risk everything, for Lou, means risking the balance she has fought so hard to maintain. She is a bridge between tradition and change, and with every step forward, she risks leaving something behind. The question that echoes around her is whether she can truly have both a thriving ranch and a life of her own. Jack, as always, sees the cost of these choices before anyone else. His wisdom comes not from books but from scars. He knows what it means to risk everything because he has lived through losses that shaped him into the man he is now. He watches Amy and Lou struggle, and though his words are calm, his heart carries the fear of what could be lost if their choices go wrong. Jack has always been the quiet anchor of Heartland, but even an anchor can be pulled under when the storm grows too strong. The weight of watching his family walk toward risk is a burden heavier than any ranch work he has ever done. Tim approaches choices differently. For him, risk is not something to avoid, is something to chase. He has always believed that fortune favors the bold, that life is too short to hesitate. But that attitude often brings as much pain as success. In Risk Everything, Tim faces a mirror of his own past decisions, a reminder that every risk carries consequences. The question for him isn't whether to risk, but whether he is willing to accept the fallout when those risks ripple through the people he loves. His energy, his drive, his stubbornness, they are all double-edged swords. The ranch itself becomes a symbol of choice. Heartland is not just land and buildings. It is a place filled with memory and meaning. Every fence post, every trail, every horse in the barn carries the weight of history. Risking everything for the ranch isn't just about saving a piece of property, it's about protecting a way of life. It is about keeping alive the values of hard work, resilience, and connection to the land. Yet, as the world outside changes, the ranch cannot stay untouched. Choices must be made about its future. And those choices will define what Heartland means for the next generation. And woven through all of this is the quiet reminder that risk is not always about loss. Sometimes risk is about growth. Sometimes it is about daring to believe in something bigger than fear. When Amy chooses to step into the ring with a horse that others would give up on, she risks everything, but she also opens the door to healing and transformation. When Lou stands firm in her role, she risks judgment, but she also builds a future. When Jack shares his wisdom, he risks being ignored, but he also plants seeds of strength that his family will carry forever. This is the power of Heartland. It doesn't just show us dramatic moments for the sake of drama. It shows us the reality of living, the truth that every step forward comes with a cost. To risk everything is not about recklessness, it is about courage. It is about loving something so deeply that you are willing to face whatever comes, even if it means losing. That is what makes the choices in this first episode so powerful. Each character, in their own way, is standing on the edge of a decision that will shape not only this season but the heart of the story itself. And as the episode draws us deeper, the tension grows not because of explosions or loud spectacle, but because of the quiet, personal battles that feel so real. Viewers don't just watch the choices unfold, they feel them. They ask themselves, would I have the strength to risk everything? Would I have the courage to make that choice? That is why Heartland continues to matter after 19 seasons. It is not only about horses or ranch life, it is about us.